Bruins.
It is.
All right. What's up, Alec? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First, we got to get the nice background going. Now we're ready. Alec, we know you played at UNH. How did that come to be?
At UNH?
SMH.
I wish I played at UNH.
You almost did.
Something like that. No, I ended up at Southern New Hampshire. I was looking at a handful of schools through junior, and honestly, SNU was one of the ones that when I toured it early on, like when I was first graduating high school, I was like, there's no way I'll ever go to this place. It's a dump. I hate it. And all this stuff. And then I went back and toured when I was in my last year of junior, and they'd done a bunch to the campus. And it was like a really kind of up and coming school. And the hockey team had kind of been on the downswing for a little bit. So I just felt like it was a chance to be a part of, rebuilding a program. And that's something that I thought was pretty cool. It was close to home. So it had a lot of what I wanted.
So, did you always like plan on going like D2?
Yeah, no. I was never really like picky with it. I was kind of D1, D2, D3. I just wanted to play as much hockey as I could, and that's kind of where I was at. Like when I decided I wanted to play juniors after high school, I was cool with, shouldn't say cool with it, but I understood like I might not get to play in college. I just wanted to get a few more years of hockey in because I enjoyed it. And then when I got to go play in college, it was wherever I'm going to be able to go, I want to go type of thing.
Where how'd you get into your junior hockey career? What was that like?
Well, I guess kind of tied in together with like midget AAA because there was no full season midgets when I was a kid in New England. It was like you played for your local AAA team or town team and then went and played high school hockey, and some kids from high school went and played junior B and other ones played prep school, and that was like your two options. So I tried out for a few junior B teams when I was in 8th grade because I didn't want to play for my local high school. And I think I made like one team as a practice goalie and decided it would be better to probably play high school hockey. So I did a year of high school hockey, and then my sophomore year of high school, a lot of teams in the area started adding midget programs. So like all the USPHL teams now, like the Islanders, the Monarchs, South Shore Kings, Junior Bruins, they all kind of jumped into that midget realm. And Cyclones was the closest one to my house. It was 15 minutes away, and I tried out and made the team and played 2 years there.
So was it always Cyclones? You played at Seacoast College Prep. What was you played under Kurt?
I did. I played for Coach Mallet.
You have any great Kurt Mallet stories that you could share with us that won't get us in trouble?
Oh boy. No, I'm sure I have a bunch. I bet I'll come up with some. Curdy was, it sounds cliche, but he's one of the best coaches I ever had. And I tell you guys around the rink that, but he was someone I definitely didn't always see eye to eye with him, because my first year playing for him, I didn't play a whole bunch. We had two 20-year-old goalies and I was 17, I think. So I kind of sat a lot of the beginning of the year, and him and I had it out a few times because I felt like I should have been playing. And I mean, by the end of that year, I knew it was a guy that I wanted to play for. I loved playing for him, and I went back for a second year and had a blast playing for him in that second year as well. Again, I'm sure I was a pain in his behind for both years. Probably wasn't as low maintenance as I should have been. I should have just kind of played and stayed out of the way, but I'm sure I did plenty of stupid stuff, and I'm happy he put up with me.
So after Seacoast College Prep, was it right to Wizards, or was Wizards your first option before SNHU?
Definitely not. So I finished up that year, my second year with Seacoast, and it was a blast playing there. We had, honestly, my 2 years, we played as an independent team. So we would play, you know, some teams from the EHL, some teams from the USPHL, some prep schools, some midget teams. It was kind of just a modge podge schedule, which was cool because you got to see a bunch of different hockey and a bunch of different, you know, places. We played up in Quebec. I think we played in Ontario, some different places in the US. But it got kind of old not playing playoffs and stuff. So I knew for my last year I wanted to go play in a league. And like every kid, I know I've discussed it with you guys, I wanted to go play in the North American League. I wanted to play in the best league that I could. And that was also the first year that the NCDC was going to be a division, was my last year of junior. So obviously I was kind of interested in that. So I, you know, reached out to a handful of teams in some different leagues and just said, you know, this is where I play. This is kind of my numbers. Here's my coach, blah, blah, blah. And I got invited to, you know, a handful of North American League camps, a handful of USPHL camps, and then a couple, I think like OJHL or CCHL. I don't even remember. They could have been like the moneymaker pre-draft camps for all I know. But I got invited to a few, and the only one I ended up going to was Rochester Monarchs in the USPHL, which I don't even know if they're a team anymore. I don't think they are. But their coach was the one that seemed, you know, the most interested, I guess. He said he wanted an older goalie because they were going to have a young team. And they had like a goalie camp they wanted me to come out to. So I went to Rochester, and it was like 20 goalies there. And I went to that, and there was a few kids that had already played in the North American League and the USHL and stuff. So that was kind of stressful, but I ended up being like one of the 2 or 3 that they took from that camp. It was like me and a kid from the North American League and one other, I think, that they took to, you know, be the guys going into training camp or whatever. And then, yeah, I thought I was going to Rochester, and a few weeks went by, and I tried to sign up for like the main tryout camp or whatever, and I couldn't. And I called the coach, and I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to like sign up." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you didn't like sign up right away, so we just figured you didn't want to play here, and we filled the spot." So I was like, "Oh, all right. Looks like I gotta find a place to play." So then it was back to the drawing board. And that was like, funny enough, that was the only junior camp that I ever went to, really. Like I never went to a North American League or a USHL camp. I never went to a camp in Canada. I guess I technically went to like Cyclones camp while I was playing there, because all the midget guys would just do the junior camp. And then I went to 2 like junior B tryouts when I was 14. Other than that, I never went to a junior camp in when I was in juniors. So after Rochester and that whole thing, I ended up playing, I think it was like Chowder Cup, probably one of those summer tournaments. And I just kind of went into that, and I was like, oh, I hope someone sees me here or something. And after my first game, I met with Amarillo in the North American League, and I think it was like one of their scouts or whatever. And he was like, "Yeah, you know, we're gonna sign you. You're gonna come to camp. You know, you'll be one of like 3 or 4 goalies at camp, but you don't have to go to main camp. You come right to preseason in August." And I was like, "Perfect. I'm on this team now. Sounds good. And then they, things just kind of went along like another month. I just was training and whatnot at home. And then probably like 2 weeks before camp started down there, that scout called me and was like, "Oh yeah, we filled the spots with some younger goalies. So you don't have a spot here." So it was kind of deja vu a month later. So from there, they sent me to Philadelphia Little Flyers in the EHL, which again, I'm not sure if they're a team anymore. I think they are. And it was getting down to it, and it was like the day I was supposed to go down to Philly. And I just kind of was like, this isn't what I want to do. If I'm going to be in this league, if I'm already going to be in this league, I want to be at home. So I luckily talked to some buddies that I had over at Wizards, and they had a goalie spot open, and, they helped me get over there, and that was kind of how it went. So really, for my last year of junior, I didn't have a team until the first day of training camp, basically.
So coach, I understand that you could be playing college hockey this year, but you're not. What are you doing right now? And just explain it all.
I mean, right now in this present moment, I'm just sitting in my living room talking to two of my favorite goalies. No, I'm just kidding.
That's Cameron, obviously.
Yeah,
so yeah, I'm technically eligible to be playing college hockey right now. This would have been my 4th season of NCAA. So really I could play this year and next year, technically, with the red shirt year or the COVID year, however it works. But basically the way it went, I started at Southern New Hampshire in 2018, it would have been. And had my freshman and sophomore year there. And then my junior year last year, the whole season was canceled due to the pandemic. Our whole conference didn't play. We were online school for the whole year. So I was away from games for however long. Like, we didn't play a game in over a year. And on top of that, I had some injuries that I was dealing with, both hockey and non-hockey related, that I didn't really know if I went back to playing how it would go anyway. So I kind of told our coach at Southern New Hampshire last year, probably around Thanksgiving time, that I was considering being done and kind of moving on from playing into coaching, because that's what I always knew I wanted to do when I was done playing. So I had kind of already had that thought in my head, and I was still thinking about it. And then probably late winter last year, I kind of decided, if I'm already thinking about it, I'm already half in, half out. There's no sense in still going. Like, if I was going to play, I wanted to be 100% committed to it and put my best foot forward. And the fact that I was already leaning away from it made me feel like it was probably the right time to be done. And like I said earlier, with like the whole junior hockey thing in college, I got to play hockey for an extra handful of years after I graduated high school. I got to do it while I was in college. Like, I did everything I wanted to with the game, and I was pretty content with where I was at. So I decided to hang up the skates. And on top of that, I was also fortunate that I was a little ahead in school. So I was able to get my degree in 3 years instead of 4. So I wrapped up my degree last spring, and right away went full-time into coaching with, GDS goaltending, and luckily got to work with Seacoast Performance Academy, Seacoast Spartans, and a lot of other great young goalies from different youth programs and high schools, prep schools, colleges, etc.
So, yeah, you work for Buckley now. Have you always been with Buckley?
Yeah, so I very early on, probably when I was like 6 or 7, and everyone, like, we had one set of pads for the whole team for my local town team. And I was trying it out. We had like a goalie clinic once a week with Mike Daragosian, who at the time he was the assistant coach at Boston University. And nowadays he is very old, but he still runs some goalie stuff, I think. And he was always an awesome guy. I loved him. He was super entertaining when I was a little kid. And funny enough, he ended up being my goalie coach at Wizards for my last year of junior. So funny how things work out, small world. But after I worked with Guerra, just very, very, limited and basic stuff when I was a little kid. I met Buck when I was, I believe, 8 or 9 years old. So I got to know him right around the time that he was getting out of playing and starting GDS. So I was really there from the beginning to see all of it, from, being this little company, kind of a startup goalie coaching thing, to, now he's got multiple locations. He's coached a handful of NHLers, a bunch of college goalies, and I'm fortunate to have been a part of that ride, and, now get to work for him and help mold young minds in the net.
Coach Alec, from my understanding, the pen is mightier than the sword. Why is this, and how did that come to be?
I think I was sitting in a macroeconomics class in college, and we got emailed a link of some cool pictures from a game a few weeks earlier, and I was like, ooh, I'm going to post this with some goofy caption. And I had like always made jokes about that in the locker room at school, because our mascot was the penman at Southern New Hampshire, which, if you didn't know, it is literally a guy holding a pen or like a quill, because evidently he writes stuff down. But so I would always be like, hey, fellas, pen's mightier than the sword, when we were going out for a period or something. So then I threw it on a nice Instagram caption.
All right. I think it's time we get into some hot takes, or as Barnesy like to call it, Golub's cold takes. First one we got here is Vasilevskiy a Hall of Fame goalie right now? And if not, what does he have to do to become one?
I certainly think he is. I think he's kind of done everything that you could ask of a Hall of Famer. He's got 2 Stanley Cups. He has a Vezina, right? If not more than one.
Yeah.
He's he's proven that he's pretty damn good and pretty dominant in the NHL. I think, we'll see how the balance of his career goes. I'm sure he's got plenty of years ahead of him. And I bet, as human beings, there's some recency bias. So, if he goes on a tough stretch to end his career, people might kind of forget how good he was early on. But I would like to think he has to be pretty much a shoo-in with the body of work he's already had.
Barnes, do you want to weigh in on this? We probably already know your answer.
110%. He's 27 years old. He has 2 cups, a Conn Smythe, a Vezina. He probably needs some more Olympic success, and like more international, like World Cup of Hockey. But I don't know. I think he is right now. Probably another cup this year, going back to back to back. So that just will solidify it even more. How about you, Gold? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He's only 8 NHL seasons in, 2 Stanley Cups. Martin Brodeur was made his debut in '94. By 2003, he had 3 cups, and if he's a Hall of Fame goalie. So I say if Vasilevskiy wins a cup this year, he's solidified himself as not only a Hall of Famer, but a top 5 of all time for sure.
here's a good just to play devil's advocate, because like I said, I think he's a Hall of Famer. But if Matt Murray, reestablishes his game and wins the Vezina next season, and then spontaneously retires right after, is he a Hall of Famer?
How many gold medals does he have?
I mean, he's got 2 Stanley Cups and a Vezina. That's the same as Vasilevskiy, right? And they're the same age.
Conn Smythe as well. That's a good mention.
Fair enough.
Hey, I mean, if Matt Murray does all of this in Ottawa next season, then he might go down as a top 2 goaltender of all time. If he could do that.
Well, I mean, I was if he won a Vezina next year, I would see him as a borderline Hall of Fame candidate. I wouldn't you could make an argument for him being in the Hall of Fame, and then you could also say he doesn't deserve to be in it. But it would be very it would be a very hot topic.
Fair enough.
So the next question I have is Swayman or Allmark for Game 3?
Well, now that it's been confirmed by Bruce Cassidy that Swayman is going to play, I'll say Swayman. But I like that pick.
Yeah, I did not see that update. Why do you like that pick? What do you see in Swayman that you don't see in Allmark, and why may he have more playoff success?
I don't think it's as much, more success or like a better fit. I think it's just change something up, get a little bit different momentum. I know a lot of people, I've heard some people complain that Swayman should have been in from the start. I've heard other people complain that Swayman should have gone in for Game 2, which, yeah, maybe hindsight 2020, you never know. But I think, Coach Cassidy for the Bruins probably thought, Allmark had, I think, a .950 save percentage in April. He was running hot, and you got to ride the hot hand. You see it every year in the NHL. Team with a hot goalie usually goes pretty deep and a lot of the time wins. So I think it was the right move to play Allmark. Game 1, I didn't really think he was bad. Just, they got outplayed by a good Carolina team, and Ronta played really well down the other end. And I think if you put Swayman in for Game 2, and then you lose Game 2, say 5-2, like they did last night, or 5-1, whatever the score was, then you're in a real pickle because both guys gave up 4 and lost, and who are you going to go to for Game 3? So now I think you gave Allmark his chance. You're not really blaming it on him. You're not putting it on him. You're just putting in the other guy to see if you can give your team a spark and a kick in the rear end to get going and get something started, especially back on home ice.
Barnes, you want to tap in on this? Do you think
I
Swayman?
did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's you now.
yeah, I agree. I think definitely Swayman time. He's had identical numbers to Allmark all season, and he's had identical numbers to Campbell for the Maple Leafs, who's starting and had a shutout his first game. So why not give Swayman a chance, Which leads us to our next topic. Is Campbell a playoff goalie?
That's a great question. I think we're going to find out. I guess we'll see. I'm a fan of Jack Campbell. I've always kind of followed him because, I guess you guys were pretty young, but, I was a teenager or a young teenager when he was playing in the World Junior. And I remember, thinking it was the coolest thing ever that he was playing in the World Junior and starting for Team USA, I think, as a 17-year-old. And I was, 12, 13, and I was like, this is insane. This kid's, a handful of years older than me, and he's playing in the U20 tournament. And that was the year they won the gold medal in overtime against Canada. I want to say he beat Martin Jones and Jake Allen, were Canada's goalies.
Solid goalie tandem over there.
Yeah, so so that was super cool. And I remember he got drafted that year, first round, I think like 10th overall. by Dallas, which again was kind of unheard of for a goalie to go that high, other than, you know, a guy like Carey Price a handful of years earlier. So I always kind of followed him. I know he struggled in junior a bit. He struggled in Dallas and kind of got a new lease on life out in LA and kind of found his game. And then again in Toronto, he's been solid. So I think, even though I'm kind of rambling, to summarize, like, he has the pedigree. He's played at a really high level. He's been a really good goalie in big spots. So I think it's definitely in there. But the NHL is a whole different animal. It's the best league in the world. So I guess we'll see what he can do, especially he's playing against a really good team in Tampa Bay, and he's, you know, behind not the most defensively structured team in the Leafs. So it's a little bit of run and gun. But I don't know. I like his chances.
Yeah, I agree. He had a shutout first game against the hot Tampa Bay team, back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. He's had a great season, 49 games this year, and 31 wins with a .914 save percentage. It's up there. He has good numbers. He's solid. Obviously, he had the World Junior experience as a 17-year-old. So he finally has a chance, and I think he finally has a team in front of him that can do it. So time will tell. Barnes?
I mean, I'm a firm believer that the better goalie wins the series. I think playoffs are a big goaltending matchup. And I mean, I think he's really good, but I think a guy like Vasilevskiy, like Kemper, Saros, if he was healthy, would beat him in a goalie matchup, like in a series. And I think he could get there to be an elite playoff goalie, but I don't think he's an elite playoff goalie yet, because the first game he may have had a shutout, but the next game he lets up 5, loses a game in Toronto, and then now he has to go to Tampa Bay and win at least one of them to stay tied with Tampa.
Yeah.
The next question we have, this is the last question of the episode, is do the Oilers look to get a goalie this offseason? I'll give you guys my take on this. I wrote down a few goalies here. Some noticeable free agents: Fleury, Kemper, Casey DeSmith,
Yeah.
and Korpisalo. And then do they also try to make a trade for Carey Price?
I think the Carey Price one is interesting, obviously because he's from at least out that way in British Columbia. But I also know, or I saw recently, that he's even questioning if his knee could hold up, you know, to a full NHL season moving forward, which is a whole nother thing. I'd be obviously really bummed if Tuukka and Carey Price retired in 1 year. That'd be a big blow to like my childhood goalies. But I think Edmonton probably could be in the market. Obviously, I think every NHL team is always in the market for goaltending. And I think they got some good prospects there with like Stuart Skinner, who's obviously had some NHL experience. The other guy, Olivier Rodrigue, who's in the or the AHL. He's obviously pretty good. And then who's playing right now for them? Smith and Koskinen, which obviously they're on the older side and, you know, probably not the goalies that are going to get them over the hump, at least in my opinion, from what I've watched. So, yeah, I think I could see them going after a goalie. I like some of the names that you just mentioned. I also know they signed the Minnesota Duluth goalie this year as well, the Ryan Fanti kid. So they could have hopes for him. He had a pretty good college career at Duluth, and you know, I think he played 3 years there. Was a 2-year starter, if I'm not mistaken. So that could be a guy that they think could be the answer, but time will tell.
Yeah. Koskinen is at the end of his contract this year. I don't see them re-signing him. He hasn't done much. He's gotten them to the playoffs, but if McDavid and Draisaitl wouldn't combine for 3,000 points in a season, he wouldn't change a thing. So I think it comes down to what they're looking for, and they're obviously going to need a young kid to grow with McDavid and Draisaitl. And Jake Ottinger is at the end of his contract, and he's young, he's good. I believe he's an NTDP kid, and I think he'll fit perfectly in Edmonton with the young group they're going with. They have Evander Kane, who's more of a vet, but I think Jake Ottinger would fit pretty nicely.
That'd be pretty crazy. I think the tough thing with Ottinger is I'm assuming he's a restricted free agent in Dallas. And I personally would be shocked if they let him go. I think they'll throw whatever number amount they have to in terms of money to keep him around, because he is such a blue chip prospect and you only come across those every so often. But hey, I'm sure crazier things have happened.
Yep.
Who were the other ones you guys mentioned? Fleury. I would
Kemper.
Rittich.
Casey DeSmith.
Corpusalo.
Yeah,
I'm a
Casey
big
DeSmith.
fan
I
of.
was very serious about Casey DeSmith.
Hottest goalie in the NHL.
Signing.
Corpusalo and Casey, I think, are good options for a team like Edmonton that's looking for a guy who, maybe not as young as they might want to look. Because I know Casey's 30, going to be 31. Corpusalo, I believe, is 27, 28. But, that could be the sweet spot of young enough that they got a few really good years left ahead of them. Relatively cheaper options compared to some of the other goalies out there. And, good experience at the NHL level.
All right. So Marc-Andre Fleury signs with Edmonton. Casey DeSmith signs with Edmonton. Does GDS open up an Edmonton location?
That is a question for Michael Buckley.
He will be on this soon.
And
we're working on it. That'll be some episode.
They win the cup. They win the cup if they get one of those big names, and then they sign Casey as a 1B. They win the cup easily. They set a record for the President's Trophy, best record in the past 20 years. They just need the goaltending.
I could see it happening, 100%.
I'll text him and tell him you said that. Probably make him feel good.
We should Edmonton Hockey Academy out there too.
Casey DeSmith on the pod next. He's in the middle of his playoff run. Just hops on the pod.
He could join from the bench.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's on the. I don't think he's on the bench tonight.
Diorio, right?
Yeah, Diorio's backing up Domingue right now.
2 full right goalies on the same team or on the same ice right now.
Tough bounce. They can't win anything.
We got a very exclusive person here on the pod. Do you know the details of DeSmith's?
I do not, unfortunately. I wish I could break the news for you, but I don't.
All
right. Well, that pretty much sums up what we have for you today. Thank you for coming on after a busy day of golfing and goalie coaching. What'd you shoot today?
Oh, I was terrible. It was a typical round of golf for me. Started out well and then went downhill in a hurry. I think I finished at like an 84 or an 85.
All right. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day, even though it's so late. And hopefully both get to see you soon. Next season's coming up. So thank you.
I'll be down this summer. I want to get some cage lessons in. Thank you for joining the pod.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. I think it's awesome what you're doing, kind of getting the Wednesday goalie talk rolling again. Happy to be a part of it. Hopefully I can, be on again at some point. And yeah,
All right.
anytime I can give some goalie wisdom or just some good stories or some laughs, I'll try to do my best.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas.